today I want to talk about something a little bit different. I specifically want to talk about how to essentially take space or take map control, or what to do when you have map control positioning wise. I'm going to talk a lot about how Lucio Honors function and how that positioning impacts the direct, like the rest of the team, whether it's the DPS and the tanks, and how everyone sort of works like in synergy together. So how I'm going to start this is, first I'm going to do some very general basics that is like nothing complicated. The first, I'm just going to say everyone's role, and it's really obvious, so I apologize if this is really simple. But DPS, their role is essentially always looking to create space for your tanks to walk. So looking to take, like, push the lanes. So in this map, you could look at it like, whoops, here there's that side, and then like there's sort of the main lane in the situation. So push the lanes, so that, you know, if your main tank is pushing like over here, they're able to do it. And you could also sort of argue that it might be like this, like that, and I guess like that, sort of. Yeah. Anyway, DPS push lanes so that your Doomfist, your Winston, whatever, is able to walk main. As well as DPS look for final blows. That's really good. And the last thing is, because you're trying to fight for these lanes or take these lanes, you might have one-on-ones, like, you know, soldier v soldier or a Genji v Genji. So looking to sort of like duel other flankers for lane space and then trying to win those. Tanks. What is Tank's role? Tank's role is very ebb and flow based, where you're looking to essentially create space for your team. You get utilities, heals, and resources from your team, but looking to either soft engage, where you're looking to, like, let's say like you jump over here as Winston and you're looking to soft pressure maybe a soldier over here, but you're not hard engaging, you're not jumping on him, you're just soft engaging, then you drop over here, and then your Ana maybe is playing like somewhere up here or someone further away, or actually maybe Ana's playing over here, and then your soldier will be playing over here. Then your Ana can heal you. But if you're looking to hard engage, then maybe the Winston, you know, would jump in over here and really get on said soldier. So sort of understand as tanks where you're looking to soft engage to hopefully put some split focus so your DPS can walk forward, your backline can walk forward, as well as, yeah. Or you're looking to hard engage where you're looking to try and more so get a kill. So that's really important to differentiate. The next thing is, which is also sort of obvious, is understanding how to take as much tension from the enemy team so that your DPS or supports, again, are a bit more free. When I would say more DPS than supports, because the enemy tanks could be diving your supports, while maybe your tanks or enemy tank is diving your supports, while your tank is diving their supports. Bad habit. That's going to be hard to get rid of. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, supports roles gets tricky. So Lucio, I'm just going to sort of define it as this. Lucio, your role, I got to be careful, I think the webcam somewhere there. Lucio, your role is always looking to set people up. Is always looking to set up your supports first in this order. Your supports, then your DPS, and then your tank. But your tank should be self-sufficient. One of your DPS should be self-sufficient. The other one shouldn't be. As well as then, after you're setting up, you're either looking to peel your backline, which is your Ana, or your other DPS, or you're looking to hard dive. And this is something I'm not going to go too much into, but I'll talk about maybe at the end, and sort of how do you understand when to do either or. And a lot of that, I'd say, is based off of, do you want to make an aggressive play? Does the enemy team have an aggressive ultimate you need to counter? Oh, they have Blade. I need to speed my Ana out. I need to try and boop. Oh, they have Attack Visor. I need to speed out. Oh, we have Nano Blade, and I want to try and speed in and try and be really aggressive and try and, you know, get my Ana position where my Ana can throw a nade and whatnot. Ana, your job is essentially enabling your team's dive with another angle, while you'll see how positioning works, but enabling your team's dive with another angle, as well as understanding when you should be rotating dynamically with your DPS versus soft holding space. So let me just give you like a sample of what I'm talking about. So a very basic idea here is, let's say the fight is going to happen over here. Or better yet, let's say the neutral fight happens over here. Okay, the neutral fight happens here. the very general thing you want to understand is Lucio Ana should always, at least at the start, be together. Whenever you're taking space, or yeah, trying to like take map space or neutral fight, Lucio Ana should be together because you're always gonna have to peel each other. So Lucio Ana together. We don't need that actually. Then the next thing is you can divide DPS into two ranges, two different categories. You have sort of like shorter range DPS, and you sort of have longer range DPS. Now, shorter range would be something like Genji, or maybe Echo, or Reaper to some extent if you're not flanking. Longer range would be something like Soldier, or maybe a Widow, or nothing else is really played right now. Sojourn, but not really played. But hopefully you get what I'm saying. So now how this works is normally, and it's situation dependent, and I'll talk about both situations, but when you're in this neutral fight, you'd want the shorter range person with you. So in this situation, you want the Genji. And then you have a longer range DPS playing a longer angle. And then you have your Doomfist Winston sort of existing. Your Doomfist Winston should try to not take too much poke. Your Ana should be in a position where they're able to sort of help them. But the main idea is when the Doomfist or Winston soft engages or hard engages, the Ana's in a position where they can help them. And then after that, the Winston then can jump out and then get heals. And Soldier is sort of self-capable of playing this angle where Soldier's able to use heal pad, do range damage, and be fine. And if needed, Ana's able to heal. So for example, this is how this would look. Ana would maybe look to come like over here, maybe not over here, maybe like over here. Your Lucio would be more frontlining, your Genji would be more aggro. Let's say your Doom goes in here, let's say, and then your Soldier is playing some off angle. Something like this. And enemy team's over here. So their Ana would be over here. Lucio. And then there's some other person. Genji. Now, what's interesting about this is that this can be... Depending on how your playstyle is, you can swap this up. So this is having the close range DPS near the supports. And if you sort of think about this, it's sort of like works as sort of a pseudo tank. Why? Because like this person is sort of protecting their Lucio Ana, so it's harder for a Genji just to go on their backline. For example, if this Genji just dashes onto Lucio Ana, what happens? This Genji's going to try and kill him, or he's going to prevent him from even doing that. So you sort of have like a pseudo DPS that is sort of preventing the enemy team from getting on their backline. It sort of reminds me of Ball Comp, where you had, you know, a Diva or Sigma protecting your Brig Zen, and then you had Ball plus Tracer. However, the difference here is Ball here is like could be Doom Winston and split. Tracer here is your long range DPS, and then this is your other DPS, and you don't have another tank. So that's sort of another way of maybe looking at it. Now, the reason why I said this is interesting is because depending on how you want to play, you can swap this around. You can now put your long range Genji over here, and you could put your Soldier over here. Now, the difference with this is a... If you have your Soldier play with your backline, this is inherently going to be safer. As well as... it's safer because you have heal pad. Soldier can like heal pad plus nade plus speed, very OP. You can also nade, amp heals plus heal pad, really strong. But it's different because in my opinion, and I could be wrong in this, I prefer not approaching it this way when you are taking space. When you already have space, I think this can be very strong because your Genji can set up in a position where he's short. Your Ana can play far away but still be meaningful value, and you can get a kill box with multiple angles. So to me, how I like approaching this is I always want my short range DPS to push with my supports. So again, it's a bad color. Let's get back to black. I'd want my Genji or Reaper, you know, pushing with here, and then I'd want my Soldier pushing along sightline. But again, this can depend on what you're trying to do. For instance, if we had point control and a fight was bound to happen maybe over here in this area, then I would want my Soldier actually be somewhere over, let's see what color is this pink? I'd want my soldier to be somewhere over here. And then I'd want my Ana over here, and then maybe my Lucio over here. This way they have value, and then my Genji could play somewhere another angle, and then my Doom or Winston could play another angle with tank. And now every single time I still have my 3 angles of aggression. My Ana's in a place where my Ana can go more aggressive in or also kite out. My Ana has options. And my Ana can look for aggressive nades. My Ana can DPS. And that's the value, right? Is you want to put your Ana in a position where your Ana is inherently able to be like a pseudo DPS, but still enable and heal like your Genji, your soldier, and your your tank if needed. And I want to go too much into this now, but the really good positionings from a backline will be positions where you're able to sort of set up for cheeky nades and sort of be able to dive off said cheeky nades. So for instance, an example of this could be, let's say you're playing right over here as Ana, and you're enabling your team to like, hold this space or whatnot. But then you make a quick rotation and you come right over here, throw a nade, and then your team's able to engage right over there. That would be an example of like a carry play, and this is sort of how you see an Owl. This is how you sort of see an Owl, like in like Finn or Iris or other flex supports hitting these insane nades, and you're like, whoa. And it's because they're setting up in positions that give them a really nice rotation, and this is a short rotation, to get into a position where they can hit that kill box. Or they're set up already and they have map control, or they're set up where they can just nade on the enemy rotation, and it's even easier. So hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. I think a lot of people might say, yeah, flex support is sort of like the main healer now, and like main support is damage. I still don't think that's like fully necessarily true, because a lot of Lucio's roles, as I said earlier on, is you're peeling as well as you're also diving. So I actually would view Lucio more as utility, but then once you get that utility basics down, like again, the value of speed, being able to speed people out of danger or speed people into an aggressive fight, after that value, then actually understanding how to min-max so that you can actually look to like get in dives and get kills. So that will help a lot. And especially as fights go longer and they're more dynamic, as a Lucio, if you're able to dive with maybe a Genji and kill a soldier, or go on an Ana and kill somebody, that makes a meaningful difference. And the biggest problem I know for a fact that a lot of Lucio Anas will have is they'll just be dying on repeat, because the Lucio Ana are not coordinating before the fight happens, saying something as simple like this. Let's say the Ana's over here and the Genji's coming and the enemy team's pushing here. They're not commuting saying, hey, if the Genji blades us, we're gonna kite back and left, right. They're just saying, we're like, they just know they're gonna kite, but they don't know where. So what ends up happening is the Ana may go over here, the Lucio might go here. The Ana might go here, the Lucio might go here. Or maybe they both go in here, but I mean, maybe that's not what they should be doing. So they're not communicating properly in terms of how to kite and where they want to kite. So they have that issue. Lucio doesn't hit the important boop. Honor doesn't hit an important nade. Speed amp is not timed correctly. Another issue always is that as the enemy team like walks more up, you guys need to walk more back. And essentially what you're doing is you're actually baiting the enemy team into a kill box right over here, where your DPS, who's maybe should be over here, and another DPS like a Genji should be over here. If you're looking to hit them too and looking to trade backline should happen, but that may not happen and you might be too slow. So that's sort of the way I'd approach this, is sort of backline. Make sure whenever you're under pressure, make sure you're sort of communicating like, oh, they're gonna blade us, or we're gonna kite back and kite back left, or we're gonna kite back and go this way. That'll help a lot. And last tip I want to give is don't have supports push point. Support should be focused on setting up. Don't have your Lucio push point. Lucio should be helping your support setup. Have your tank push point. Your support can always heal the tank. You could have maybe your DPS do it, but instead I'd even have your DPS rather set up, because one of them, like I said, is going to be with your supports helping, as well as the other one's going to be holding a lane. And by having both of these people set up, then you can look to actually hit a kill box, and then because your tank has mobility, they can just jump it. So hopefully, and it's not a strict rule, sometimes you might have DPS doing it, or sometimes you might have a Lucio, but hopefully this makes sense. This is very basic. So one thing I hope that you take from this is the understanding that supports Lucio Ana, the idea of you know, how you want to take space is you have a DPS in front of you, or a short range DPS in front of you if you want to play that play style, or you have a long range DPS if you want to play a bit safer, like a soldier, because they'll get more heals, and then you have another DPS on another angle, and you look to walk forward and enable them to take space. One last thing, actually, I also want to mention, because I forgot about it, is when you're looking to take space on a map, it is critical you are scouting. You are scouting for who? You are scouting for the enemy DPS because they're holding lanes. You're scouting for the enemy supports. Why? Because they could be hiding in some corner looking to nade you, and then you just die. So DPS supports, then the tank. Because the tank is important, and I definitely think, especially if it's a Winston, but normally with the meta, the tank being on cart, then you can assume that the tank's on cart as people get more used to the meta. But you need to be scouting DPS support so your team know your DPS know where to dive. DPS so you can force them out so they're not able to get on your backline. A solo tank that goes on your backline would not be able to kill anybody. So if you force their DPS out and then you know where their supports are and you know they're further back, that'll make your life a lot easier. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I hope you guys learned a little bit about space control and sort of how supports work at a very fundamental level. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.